winter grips the upper Great Lakes. A harsh place to be in winter. Unless you're trying to find wolves.
We did it! That was good.
Then it's the best time to go looking. Capture teams from the U.S. National Park Service and Ontario's Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry are out scouting for wolves to capture them as part of a 3 to 5 year ecosystem restoration effort to move 20 to 30 wolves to a new home on Isle Royale National Park in Michigan.
Big male.
They captured this wolf in a net fired from the chopper.
Yeah, good work, Scott. Good team effort.
Once the wolf is entangled, they run up and sedate it immediately to decrease stress on the animal.
Snoring.
And he's black, a rare color in wolves, an indication that offers genetic diversity, a perfect candidate for relocation.
Don't worry about the mate for now, or what's the call for friends? So we'll just leave it at that.
The capture team has a second wolf in sight. He tries to escape across the frozen lake.
This is a big adult male. He's very thin, but he's got a big head on him, big teeth, and my guess is it's one that we had collared earlier that dropped its collar.
He's been living on Ontario's Michipicoten Island, where wolves have wiped out all of the caribou. Not enough food to go around.
Those are big paws. This is a big dog. Yep. And even though he's thin, because when this guy puts some beef back on, he'll be quite the moose killer.
It's been a good day. 3 wolves, a black and 2 grays. The wolves are on their way to a veterinary check station in Wawa, Ontario. Here, the captive wolves go in for a wolf checkup to make sure they're healthy before being taken to the wilderness island.
Kevin, can you grab the blanket?
Yep.
Heart and lungs. Vital statistics.
Upper left and lower left.
They get their teeth checked too.
Not bad. Right. Upper canine 25.
25?
Yep.
Wolves are the largest members of the Canidae family, which includes coyotes, foxes, African wild dogs, and jackals. All of them are highly evolved predators. Adult wolves weigh between 80 and 90 pounds. Males are somewhat bigger than females. Wolf legs are a little longer than most canids, which gives them extra speed. They come in black, gray, and white. The black color comes from North American wolves mixing with dogs that came across the Bering Bridge with humans 12 to 14,000 years ago. Black wolves mean different genes, which is good for the Isle Royale gene pool, as wolves with a black coat may have increased capacity for immune response, helping them ward off disease. The wolves of Isle Royale prey on moose, beaver, hare, and whatever else they can catch. They have 42 teeth and jaws that crunch through moose bones with 1,500 pounds per square inch of force. Lions live 10 to 14 years, dogs 10 to 13. Wolves live only 6 to 8 years. Not a long time.
23.
So these wolves need to be in top condition,
I think so.
disease-free and healthy before they join the Isle Royale bunch.
Temperature is 37.9, so he's been pretty stable. we'll measure the wolf's body temperature, and we'll be doing that every 5 to 10 minutes while the wolf is anesthetized. Because when a wolf is anesthetized, it can't regulate its body temperature as well. So we'll be cooling it off or heating it up as we need to.
14.
14.
They also get tested for dog diseases, heartworm, parvo, distemper, canine diseases that wolves get too.
That's it. And now we wait for 8 minutes.
Parvovirus has already impacted the Isle Royale wolves once. The vets are doing everything they can to make sure nothing like that ever happens again.
So what we're seeing here on this test is that blue dot there is the positive control, which means the test has worked. And we're seeing no other positive dots that suggest that he's been in contact or been infected by any of these particular diseases. It's good to go.
The tests are negative. No infections from the past. Now the vets want to protect the wolves against the future, too.
We're giving the wolf vaccinations for common canine diseases like distemper and parvo.
Michelle, can you drop that for a sec?
rabies. Yep.
They get a green ear tag for ID and a GPS collar to help researchers keep track of them in their new home. Because these 2 wolves and a couple dozen more are on their way to a new life in a new world. A world called Isle Royale. Isle Royale is an island. It sits 20 miles off the northwest coastline of Lake Superior, opposite Thunder Bay, Ontario. The story of Isle Royale begins over 1 billion years ago, with 100 or more lava flows from a big volcanic system nearly 1,000 miles long that stretched from about where Kansas is today to southern Michigan, right through the middle of modern Lake Superior. Though Lake Superior didn't exist then, the volcanic system created a basin over time. Cooled lava layers were pushed up along the edges by the clash of continents and the weight of the cooling lava, causing the center to dip, forming a basin with Isle Royale on one edge and the Keweenaw Peninsula on the other. The island itself is held up by tilted lava flows, all stacked on top of each other, with the layers extending almost 2 miles down into the earth. Then, beginning 850,000 years ago, 4 great glaciations covered North America, thousands of feet deep, under great ice sheets. These crunched Isle Royale, bending the hardened lava flows, carving out lakes, creating many smaller islands, and depositing a lot of debris from the glaciers. Finally, the last glaciation retreated from North America about 15,000 years ago, leaving behind the Great Lakes and Isle Royale as we know it today. This process created a unique and isolated ecosystem whose size and distance from the mainland makes it a perfect example of island biogeography. Not too small, not too far, and with a limited number of species, Isle Royale is a laboratory like no other, where the principles of evolution, natural selection, and ecosystem dynamics, like how predator-prey relationships influence the larger ecosystem, can be explored. Native Americans visited here after the great ice sheets retreated several thousand years ago and still celebrate their deep connection to the island. They came for what the island had to offer: rich fisheries, rare plants, and some of the purest copper deposits anywhere on Earth. The Chippewa Nation has always thought of Isle Royale as a sacred place. Today, it's a U.S. national park, which the Park Service rigorously maintains as a wilderness. 45 miles long, 9 miles wide, it's difficult to find a wilder, more isolated place. In 1958, at the invitation of the National Park Service, Purdue professor Durward Allen started the predator-prey study to observe, analyze, and understand the relationship between wolves and moose on the island, and shed light on the importance of predator-prey relationships in ecosystems generally. Importantly, to do it in a place without human influence. Over 6 decades later, the story of the wolves and moose of Isle Royale has taken many twists and turns. Scientists found it was complicated and surprising. A healthy ecosystem consists of all the organisms living in a particular area, as well as all the non-living physical parts of the environment, such as air, soil, water, and sunlight. The non-living parts are called the abiotic factors. Abiotic factors have large effects on living things and often determine which species of plants and animals will survive or not in a given area. Add an extra abiotic factor to the Isle Royale ecosystem because it's an island.
Isle Royale is unique because of its isolation. It's surrounded by the largest surface area freshwater lake in the world. First, it was rock. It was a clashing of continents. It's copper coming up through the seams. But the water formed it and helped give it its character. It gave it its character by glaciers coming down and scraping clean the whole east end of the island, the bare rock, and then dumping a jumble of soil and rock on the western end, which became the hardwood forest, leaving that thin soil for the boreal forest on this end. And it represents kind of a transition between climates.
The weather and climate of North America, of the northern Great Lakes, and Lake Superior itself all shape the ecosystem on Isle Royale. All these influences have created 2 distinct ecozones on the island. The spruce and fir boreal forest, typically found north of Lake Superior, grow near the lake shore where it's colder. The northern hardwood forests, found to the south of Lake Superior, grow on the higher inland areas of Isle Royale, where it's warmer. The plant community in an ecosystem provides food for the animal and bird communities. Though Isle Royale is an island, and the community of life here is restricted, there is still great diversity. A long list of creatures lives in a variety of different habitats. Together, they all make up the web of life on the island. There are many kinds of wetland on the island: lakes, ponds, marshes, swamps, seasonal streams, fish, frogs, toads, turtles, salamanders, snakes, dragonflies live in and around them. Pondweed, water lilies, and other aquatic plants grow. Several kinds of freshwater clam eat up the bottom of dead and decaying plants. Beavers live in them. Moose graze in them. Birds fish in them. Every single species is necessary for the healthy and balanced functioning of Isle Royale wetlands. The numbers of species living across Isle Royale's many habitats is impressive. Over 250 species of bird, waders, swimmers, and divers, including bald eagles, loons, and kingfishers. More than 60 kinds of fish, like the lake trout, walleye, and yellow perch. There are over 20 kinds of mammal, in addition to the moose and wolves. There are muskrats, beavers, otters, mink, marten, 6 kinds of bat. Every single species contributes its part, does its job, plays its role in the health of the Isle Royale ecosystem. And what each species does affects every other species.
My job is to make sure it all clicks together, with the overall objective being restoring predation to the island's ecosystem. When we initiated this project, we only had 2 wolves, and essentially predation was 0. And the reason we want to have predation is we want to have that ecological dynamic exerting its force on the moose population.
The most prolific of all the plant-eating species on the island is the moose. And if there are too many moose, they overgraze the plants and trees they prefer, thereby altering the future of Isle Royale's forests. In the last few years, the wolf population all but disappeared. Abiotic influences, disease, climate, genetics, left only 2 wolves on the island. Wolves don't eat plants, but they eat other animals that eat plants, like moose and beaver. With no wolves to keep down the moose and beaver numbers, their populations ballooned. The moose began to overgraze the island and change the forest. The beaver began to change the waterways on the island, and the natural fluctuations of this ecosystem began to go beyond what has been observed previously. An ecosystem is like a large puzzle with many pieces. Without a naturally fluctuating wolf-moose relationship, a big piece of that puzzle was missing, and the picture was incomplete. The Park Service had a decision to make. Hands off the wilderness of Isle Royale, or act to restore the ecosystem. After looking at and weighing all the options, ultimately, the decision was made to repopulate the island with wolves for the good of the entire ecosystem on Isle Royale.
The landscape was a focal point. What's going on and how it interacts with these predator and prey. We decided on this course because we felt it would help keep resiliency in the system, and the moose are major, like, forest mowers, if you will. They eat a lot of forage every day, and by putting the predator back on the landscape, because we were down to just 2 of them, it makes a huge difference in the type of tree species that will survive, as well as the effects on our streams and lakes.
There was a breeding population of wolves here for almost 70 years. But with the dramatic decline in wolves, the moose population has ballooned to an estimated 2,000 individuals. Beaver lodge numbers are over 500. Both species are changing the landscape and the ecosystem.
The reason we're bringing wolves out is to be that apex predator, and the reason we want an apex predator in the ecosystem is that we want to have all the pieces. And the apex predator is just one piece. You know, the herbivore, although it chews on the plant community and can in high numbers damage it, they also serve their purpose. And so when we think about the whole, it's important to have every piece contributing in its own way. And so apex predator being one of them. The park is here to protect all its resources, not just wolves, not just moose. We're here for everything, and so we want to make sure the forest can continue on as it should.